Disclaimer, this is a movie review. If you are one of those people who does not like endings being spoiled, do not watch this. Watch the movie first, then come back to this review. Also, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, commentary, and news reporting. This is not my movie. This is not my movie, okay? All rights reserved. I really hate this song. Did you know? I just realized that the car, like the top of the car, caved when he jumped on. Why are both lanes of traffic going the same way? Where is there parkour? How long does this line of people go? What the fuck was that? Hi guys, it's me, Lemonbug, T, whatever the fuck you want to call me, Buggy. Um, Me and my best friend stumbled across this movie, and honestly, it was so fucking insane that I had this whole entire thing about how I was gonna be a faceless content creator, okay? I'm breaking that rule because what the fuck? You need to see the reactions to some of these scenes. What the fuck did I just watch? Why was there parkour? Why was there a bike going up and down the freaking windshields? Why did we need to dent all our freaking cars? Like, if you look at some of the cars in these clips at the very end, you can very clearly see what is very obviously dents from where people were standing. Anyways, this is LaLaLand. Summit Entertainment LLC. All copyrights reserved. I'm just using this for commentary purposes. I'm not claiming it was mine. This is very much not mine. I would never go dancing on a freaking highway where both sides of traffic are going the same way, by the way. I'm not skipping over that. Like, you can't make me forget that. Why were they both going the same direction? Anyways, so this is LaLaLand. This is basically just a movie about a struggling jazz musician and a struggling actress. That's that's all that I figured out from the movie. That's all that I figured out in the movie. Basically, you'll come to realize that like the main story of this is that you can love someone if you love her, let her go, or however that freaking song goes. I don't know. Um, yeah, that's basically the whole thing. Like choosing career over love. Yeah, if you have a career and you really love it that much, you should just forego the people you love for it and live a mediocre life or something like that. I don't know. And yes, if you're wondering why my lav mic is on a freaking skewer, it's because I want it close to my mouth, but I can't do that with my shirt. Okay? Capiche? We're okay with that? Good. Can you hear me? Hello? What was that? It just went across the screen. I've got ghosts, apparently. So, after all that, with the dancing and another day of sun or whatever the fuck the song was, I don't remember. Um, Basically, we meet our one of our main characters. Her name is Mia, and we see that she's in her car on a phone call But actually, she's not on a phone call because it's for an audition and she's practicing for it. And we see this guy behind her who goes, when she doesn't move for traffic. That's me. Like, driving, we don't honk anymore because that could get me in deep trouble. So I'm just gonna pull up to the next person and go. I'm just gonna shake my head really disappointedly at them. That'll show them. And then we see her at her job, and it's a little barista shop. But if you look really closely, weird things are happening that weren't originally like contextualized. Like, if you look at the background of it, this famous person comes in and they're like, oh my god, it's her. And she goes, one cappuccino, please. And they go, it's on the house. And she goes, no, please, I insist. I want to pay you. So then she puts her money on the counter and then she puts the tips in and then she leaves. And then we see her get in a golf cart. Mind you, in the background, there's two Rococo, I think it's Rococo. I don't know, Victorian-esque women just walking across the street. But there's also like a very like New Yorkian background, kind of like you're going to Paris Fashion Week, kind of. I don't know what that's all about, and it doesn't get addressed until later, about like 20 minutes later, by the way. But then she realizes, oh shoot, I have my audition to get to. I'm late. So then we see her at her audition, and she's acting all emo on a call. Oh, well, I just thought, and then she gets interrupted. Yeah. And then after she gets interrupted, she's like, okay, I'm just gonna continue then. And she tries to continue, and they go, actually, you can go now. She goes, oh, okay. So then we see her go back home with all her lady friends who all live together. Does this sound great? Does this sound great? Who all live together in this really weirdly, like, stylized house. And they're all talking about how you need to get out and do more stuff and live your life. Are you gonna be a loser forever? And she goes, yes, actually, I'm kind of happy being a loser. And they go, oh, no, you aren't. We know you aren't. Bitch, I said yes. She says, I'm not going to that party you want me to go to. And they go, well, that's kind of a bummer. She goes, you want to sing a musical number about it? So they sing a musical number about it. Sorry, my nose itched. I wasn't picking my nose. I was itching the corner of my nose. See all the people in the comments getting ready for that, to bully me about itching my nose. And they have this whole musical number about it, and then eventually they're like, oh, okay, well, you guys that you'll just stay home and be a loser then. And then I guess all their talking worked because she comes up in this dress, and then they dance down the street towards her car, and then they go to the party. But then once it's at the party, it shows her being left behind by her friends and this creepy guy coming to sit next to her, and then she goes to the bathroom and she has this like monologue or something, or like this musical number about how like whatever. She basically just has a whole monologue moment about how at some point she'll find someone who's meant for her. Get in line, girl. Anyways, this scene was actually like so creepy to me. Like, I thought I was gonna get jump scared for some reason. I thought that the creepy guy was gonna come behind her and be like, "Rah!" or something like that. I don't know. Don't clip that. um, yeah, no, I thought genuinely like she was gonna get jump scared, and that I was gonna get jump scared. Because this is like horror movie level setup. Like, dark rooms, staring into a mirror, and her expression, like, you know. But anyways, she leaves the bathroom, and everything is frozen in time. Like, there's a few people who are like slowly moving, But other than that, a lot of the people are just, not moving. And then all of a sudden it turns and somebody fucking jumps in the pool. Mind you, it's supposed to be winter. I don't think LA has heated pools. Or maybe they do. Either way, it's supposed to be winter. It's supposed to be cold. I don't know. And then it's just people after person jumping into the pool. And then we cut to her realizing that her car has been towed. And she's just standing there. Just, ah, seriously? Come on! According to where you're standing and the fact that you're holding your keys, I would assume that means that you parked near the tow sign. Usually when I park near a sign, I think about, tow sign. I read it, and I go, oh, okay, I'll keep that in mind. Also, her friends aren't there with her. How are they getting back home? Are they gonna come back home? This has already been set up for like some weird elaborate horror movie. I don't know. So then she starts walking across LA to get back home. I don't know about you, but I've never had a party that I've gone to that has been that close to my house that I decided to walk in 3-inch heels and a skirt in. My thighs would be chafing. Oh my god. I could start a fire. Just 2 steps down the street. Foosh. Also, we get this like really weird like setup. Again, I thought that this was going to be a horror movie because she walks past this really creepy fucking mural and then all of a sudden walks past this dark alleyway and into these red lights and just stops. And I was like, you're going to get kidnapped. Have we not heard of stranger danger? But knowing her and considering that she works where she works, which, by the way, will be addressed later, but I'm going to tell you now, is the freaking Warner Brothers lot. Because this isn't just LA or Hollywood. It's the freaking Universal Studios city. Yeah. More on that later, though. So she hears this little piano riff. I'm itching my nose. Leave me alone. My face is really itchy. Thanks. So she hears this piano riff. Gonna be the most important piano riff in the movie, even though it's so simple. It's gonna be so simple. And then she just decides to go into an unmarked door. Because she's curious? I guess? I don't know. But this is where she walks into this kind of bar-esque, like kind of like a club. But like, think old club, where it was more like you listened to music, live music, and then you sat down at a table and ate and drank and you had fun with your girlfriends or whatever. I don't know, I never went to one of those. But she goes into this bar, or like this club looking thing, and she sees this, or hears rather, this beautiful piano melody. And then we get a flashback! Hi guys, it's editor me like 3 months later after recording all this. And last editing it. I look really fucking greasy, and that's because the girl that recommended this freaking video to me, or the movie to me, broke up with me. And my now ex-girlfriend, literally like 2 weeks ago, my now ex-girlfriend posted on her Instagram note that song you're hearing in the background. And it is called Mia and Sebastian's Theme. You don't understand the gut-wrenching feeling I got watching this again, trying to get that stupid freaking clip for this video. You don't understand. Anyways, back to our regular scheduling. So then we see the guy from before who went at Our Lady Mia. And this is when we realize this is our other main character, Sebastian, played by Ryan Gosling. I'm a grown-ass woman, by the way. This is when we meet our other main character, Sebastian. Now, Sebastian is a struggling jazz musician. And by struggling, I mean not in talent, but in jobs, of course. Because it's never the talent that they're struggling in. At least not in 2016 when this movie was made. So then we see him go into his apartment, and we finally meet some other side characters besides just those three really weird fronts. And that is Laura, Sebastian's sister, and she's telling him, your place is a dump. You're just moved in and there's still boxes everywhere. And he goes, hey, you're sitting on a really important piece of furniture that's been sat on by this really cool jazz musician. You need to stop. She's like, ugh, of course. Oh, and I got you this throw rug. And just like throws it on the ground. He's like, I don't need it. And she goes, what if I told you that this other famous jazz musician pissed on it? And he's like, no. Did he? It's so stupid. He's acting like a stan. But I'm here for it because it's Ryan Gosling. So she tells him, you need to get your fucking life together and you need to get some fucking bitches, okay? So then she writes down the number of this girl that she knows and he goes, I'm not gonna do that. And then we get a montage of him practicing this song, and it is the goofiest freaking song I've ever heard. None of that, jazz mucus? Ew! Music is supposed to, flow and, depending on the style, swing, it was a bit more funky. But as far as I'm aware, he plays more, smooth jazz, kind of, or contemporary jazz. Not swing. But yeah, that's him practicing, I guess. And then he goes to work, and then we notice that he is a piano player for a club, like the same kind of club that we saw before with Mia. And his boss is like, remember, stick to the track, and I get all the tips. And Sebastian goes, you're so funny. And the boss goes, I'm not kidding. And Sebastian goes, okay, I'm not getting paid, am I? But Sebastian starts playing Christmas music. Yay! Because it's Christmas. And you can see that he's just so bored because he's going, oh, I don't want to do this. Yes, that's me playing piano. Don't ever hire me to play piano at your wedding. He decides, this is really boring. I'm going to play a little bit of my own riff. And it's that same freaking riff, by the way. The one that I said was really important? Yeah, it's that same freaking riff. And he plays it, and he imagines that he's this, this really good player, and he's playing real hard, and then he stands up as if to be applauded, and then he looks around, and he's like, oh, I'm back in the fucking building again!
I'm back in the fucking building again! Oh my god!
He's still in the restaurant. He's arguing with his guy or whatever, his boss, his manager, being like, you're not gonna fire me though. And his boss goes, I am though, I'm firing you. And he goes, no, that's not what you mean. And he goes, I mean exactly what I mean. And he goes, no, what you're saying is that you're gonna fire me. What you mean is stick to the set list. And he goes, no, what I'm saying is you're fired, don't ever come back. And he goes, come on, it's Christmas. And he goes, yeah, I can tell by all the decorations, get out. So Sebastian goes and he grabs all his sheet music in his bag. And that's when we realize Mia is actually the one watching Sebastian. She was at the club or the bar or whatever while Sebastian was playing and having that argument with his thing. That's why she ends up hearing the riff that she does. And so Mia's like, you know what? That guy's got so much passion and he's so cool, and I'm gonna really go up to him and I'm gonna get a date with him. And she goes, hi, your music is so good. And he literally just sidelines her. He shoulders past her, and she goes, ah, 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 ah. The guy just got fired. But now it's spring, baby. At this point, Me and my best friend, when we were watching this, we noticed that there was a lot of like big color blocking that was happening, like green, yellow, blue, red, maybe a little bit of pink and purple. We thought it was for the seasons, okay? Because she wore blue during the winter and she wore yellow during the spring. We went, she's gonna wear green for summer and she's gonna go red for fall. That it has to be that. Like it has to be some goofy freaking because she works at the Warner Brothers lot. No, more on that later though. I'll tell you that in a sec. She's at this pool party. Much more acceptable time for a pool party, mind you. And there's so many people there. Does everyone in LA just congregate together and they go, "We're having a party at your house," and the host goes, "You're right." Like, parties have never been. The only time I've ever seen parties that big of a production is when in movies. It's sad. But her friend introduces her to this guy named Carlo. He's a writer, he's a screenwriter. And he says, "Yeah, I'm famous. I got a lot of buzz around me and I got this." And she goes, "Ah, that's so funny. Bye." And then she walks off to get a drink. And that's when she notices, oh, it's not just music that they have a live band here. And she looks over, and who does she see but Sebastian on the keyboard, like keyboard piano, with a guitar? Why both? Why not just play one? Is that like a common thing where guitar players also play the keyboard simultaneously? Is that a thing? Can we look that up? So then she wanders over, and they're like, "Does the crowd have any suggestions?" And she does the most like teacher's pet esque like raise of the hand ever. She literally goes, like, it made my elbow crack just now. Whether that's because of how hard I did it or just because I'm old, I don't know. But she literally goes so freaking fast. And they're like, "Yes, you." And she says,
I ran.
"I ran. I ran so far away." Yeah, I haven't heard that song in forever, mind you. It might have been trending in 2016 on the radio because of this movie. I don't remember. But I have not heard this song in a hot minute. But anyways, Sebastian's like, "Are you fucking serious right now? It's you?" And they just go, "Let's hit it." And he plays, and the whole entire time he looks dead inside. And he's like, "I'm gonna kill myself." Mia, is just doing the most awkward freaking dances in the front. It's like a bird, like, trying to dance for another bird. Like, I don't get it. She's like, it's like, what are you doing? Stop it. You're creeping me out. You're creeping me out. It's like actually giving horror movie vibes. She eventually leaves after the song is over with, and he comes and finds her. And he does the most 2016 move ever for a musical series. Like, that was a whole clip just to do that, by the way. Why? What was the point of that? You could have, like, done it from the back and, like, shown him taking it off. Or, you know, when he walked up, just have him as he's walking up taking it off. Why did it have to be clip of him walking up, her smiling, and then him taking off the glasses? And so then he goes, "I remember you. And I'll admit, I was a little bit of a douchebag, okay?" And he's like, "But requesting I ran from a professional musician?" And both me and Mia had the same freaking reaction, which is, "Oh my god, professional musician." She's like, "Professional musician? Okay." And then she has the same thought that I do at the time, which is, "Oh, can I borrow your jacket later? Because I have an audition where I need to be a firefighter." She's rinsing him, and it's honestly kind of funny. This fly will not stop bothering me. Oh, so then the guy comes over and he's like, "Hey, Yeah, set, come on, let's go. And he goes, he's not my boss. I don't listen to him. And she goes, well, he literally just told you what to do. And he's like, well, yeah, but I let him. Okay, bro. And then it cuts to later at the end of the party, at the end of the night, and she's talking with that Carlo guy, I think his name was, from before, and he's talking about, oh yeah, I'm this big shot, and it needs to be reimagined, and blah, 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 blah. She sees Sebastian walk by then, and she calls him George Michael? I don't know who that is. And when I tried to look it up, I guess it was because he looked like George Michael. I don't know. But he's like, and he like looks over and he's like, yeah. And she's like, are you leaving? And he's like, yeah. She's like, can you get my keys for me, please? Can you get my keys? And he's like, huh? What? Sorry, I can't hear you. What? And she's like, can you get my keys? And he's like, oh. He's like, oh, your keys. And she's like, please. And he goes, oh, there we go. And so he walks over, and I love this bit because it's so meta. He like walks over, and he's like, okay, what car? What's your car? And she's like, it's a Prius. And he looks down, and it's all Prius keys, which is so funny because in 2016, everyone owned a freaking Prius. And I guess it was supposed to be like one of those funny moments where it's like, ha, everyone in like LA and California owned a Prius and they thought it was so freaking great, which I have not seen a single Prius since then, by the way, except for maybe like teenagers who are getting their first car and get like a refurbished Prius. So then they walk to her car, at which point she's like, I can't find it. And he tells her this super funny fact about, oh yeah, if you take it and you put it against your chin and click it, you know, it makes your head into like a radio wave and it transmits it farther or something like that. And he goes, I think it gives you cancer, but you find your car faster, so what? Okay, I guess so. And then they go and sit down so that way she can change her heels into funky jazz shoes that he's also wearing, ironically enough. And they have this like whole shebang, like this whole musical number about we don't like each other. Absolutely not. You're not my type. And there's absolutely no way I will ever love you. She has a boyfriend, by the way. That isn't discussed until later. She has a boyfriend, by the way. And it's not Carlo. It's some other guy named Greg. But they have this whole musical number. And there's one part where he is like dancing and they're supposed to go like this, but at like opposite directions, like this. And instead of going like this, he goes like this. It's so freaking great.
Waiting for your call. I'm sick, call. I'm angry, call. I'm desperate for your voice. Listening to the song we used to sing in the car. You remember Butterfly, early summer. It's playing on repeat, just like when we would meet.
And there's another part where he like takes like this running start towards the cliff with her. I thought he was just gonna go sailing over the edge. And I thought it was gonna be boom, done, movie over. My friend thought he was going to jump off and then Peter Pan around, which wasn't too far off, by the way, but on a different scene. Okay, we'll get to that also. But then she gets a call and they're like, ooh, what was that about? And it's her boyfriend, Greg. And she's like, oh, was that tonight? Oh, yikes. He's like, yeah, you're late, or whatever. And she still is doing that trick that he told her, by the way, with the fobble. You can see her put it to her chin and like look around. And her car is right in front of them. And they're like, oh, wow. And she goes, oh, like, where's your car? And he goes, it's up further a little bit. He helps her into the car. She drives off, which she drives that like a fucking whip, bro. She's just with that freaking Prius. Yeah, I'll do it again for you. You want to watch? But that was great. And then you find out his car wasn't up the hill at all. It was actually down the hill by the party. Yeah. So yeah, totally not in love my ass. So he meets her at the Warner Brothers lot on her job, and she's like, "Oh my god, you came to visit me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I came to visit you." Mind you, she's supposed to be looking and checking if this thing is gluten free or whatever for this lady. She's not doing that. But she agrees to meet Sebastian for lunch, and they go walking down the Warner Brothers lot. Which, by the way, there's like Roman gladiators walking by, the freaking Colosseum in the background. They go walking, and she talks about how her aunt used to be an actress and how she wants to be an actress too, but you know that she's struggling. This is where we find out Mia hates jazz. And Sebastian has a very, in my opinion, honest reaction, which is stopping in the middle of walking going, "You hate jazz?" Because look, I'm not an active listener of jazz, but I do like jazz sometimes. And I have a playlist of it that I sometimes listen to just because it's, you know, good to listen to, especially when I'm like working and stuff. And he's like, "Why don't you like jazz?" And she's like, "Because it's just, you know, on the one station that they play in elevators or in the background of all these fancy people, you know, talking over it, and it just becomes background music at that point." And he goes, "I'm gonna show you jazz." He takes her to this jazz club called the Lighthouse, which becomes their little spot. So cute. And he's like, "I don't understand how anyone couldn't like this, you know? Like, it's an art form, and it's literally like talking because, like he said." So then she gets a call, and she comes back to Sebastian, and she's like, "I just got a call back." If you don't know anything about the theater world, you have to audition first, and then you get a call back to then audition some more, or, you know, whatever. And then he goes, "You know, there's this movie playing at this, you know, theater. We should go watch it together for research." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, for research." And he goes, "Yeah, for research." And then, arguably, my most favorite number of all out of this whole movie, City of Stars. I love City of Stars so much. And it's just basically about him talking about, you know, love and how you find it in like inconspicuous or, you know, unconventional places and how like amazing it is. And it's just it's like really great moment. And if you look, you know, this skyline, it's got pinks and purples and oranges and stuff. Spoiler alert, pink and purple mean love. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it back anymore. Because at this point in the movie, me and my friend had to look up the color meanings behind all the color blocking. So then we see Mia going back to her callback, and immediately I hate, 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 hate the way that this room is set up. If I were walking in there, now listen, I'm autistic. I don't know if you couldn't already tell that. I would have cried on the spot. The way that this room is set up makes me feel like I'm gonna be like ripped to shreds for stuttering or something. Also, look at that guy. He looks like he played in WWE and retired after he got a freaking concussion. She says one line. And he goes, "Yep, next." And she's like, "I can write it again." And he goes, "Nope, you're good." And just opens somebody else's portfolio. So then she drives past the theater. She's like, "Oh my god, yeah." So then she goes to home, and she's, you know, getting ready, and she's in, if you notice, more comfortable clothes because she, you know, doesn't have to dress up for Sebastian because Sebastian is Sebastian. Although later you'll see he dressed in a tuxedo. So, yeah. And then her freaking boyfriend comes in. And he's like, hey, why aren't you dressed yet? We have a dinner. She goes, oh, that was tonight. He goes, yeah, that was tonight. She goes, of course it was tonight. So then she makes the vital choice to not go to the theater. But as she's at this dinner, they have a jazz radio on in the background. And as the jazz is playing, she goes, oh my god, I shouldn't be here right now. I should be with the man that I really, truly love. So then she leaves, runs out. I don't know if she took her car or what. Sebastian, the entire time, he's like, oh man, I got stood up. But to his credit, does not give up that maybe she is just late. Because even when he's sitting down for the movie, he's going and looking around. She goes in and she walks up to the very front of the theater, by the way, and like turns and looks out amongst the crowd. I would be throwing popcorn at her. I'm sorry. Boo! Get off! But she sees Sebastian and she walks back up to where he's sitting and sits right next to him. And then they flirt a little and they hold hands and then they look at each other and they're gonna kiss and then the film gets ruined and the lights come back on. And he's like, I've got a better idea. So then they actually drive up to the Griffin Observatorium and go inside, even though I thought it was supposed to be closed, but I guess not. And they dance around a little bit. It's cute. It's whatever. And then she goes to turn on this lever, right? He's like, hold on. And he takes out his like pockets where like handkerchief or something and he wipes it off for her. And she's like, you're so funny. And then she, pulls it and all these stars appear and it's so great and it's so glorious. And then he like drops the handkerchief, but then it falls upwards. And then he picks her up and like makes her float. And he floats himself. Now here's the funny thing. Number one, Ryan in an interview has said that he is terrified of heights. So I can kind of pass why he's so stiff on the wire work. They are so stiff when they're in the air. But I guess they float up into the stars, and then there's a thing about them dancing in the stars and stuff like that. And then they go and they sit back down and kiss. For real, this time. I don't know either, okay? I don't know. So then it goes through like a montage of them, falling in love and whatnot, and doing all these fun things, and one of their friends gets engaged and whatnot. It cuts to them in Sebastian's apartment, and they're talking about what they want to name his jazz club that he wants to make. And she says that she's coming up with these drawings for it, and she says that they should name it Sebs, but with like a little music note as the apostrophe. And he goes, no, we're naming it Chicken on a Stick. Chicken on a stick? No one's gonna know you do jazz with that. Better know people know you have music and stuff. Also, he does gigs now at the Lighthouse, where he is the pianist. And I forgot to mention this before because it's actually really important. But when they go and sit down, they meet an old friend of Sebastian's. Now, at the beginning, Laura, Sebastian's sister, talks about how Sebastian had a friend who kind of fucked him over. I'm wondering if this is that friend. But Keith tells him, I'm doing pretty good, man, like, I got my own band now, and Sebastian's like, oh, that's great, and they're like, yeah, we could use a keyboard, piano player, though, and I can see that, you've got a lot of passion in you and whatnot. You can always come work with us, we'll pay you $100 a week. Sebastian's like, I'll think about it. And then they talk about Chicken on a Stick. And she brings up how she wants to do a one-woman act, which is basically just an entire theater act where it's just her. But then she calls her mom the next morning, and this is where the movie kind of starts to get a little bit more serious. She calls her mom. she's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna do this and he's gonna do that. And I guess the mom's like, how are you going to afford it? And she's like, we're getting money, like we just need to get the money and we're gonna do it. And I guess her mom's like, you're really stupid or whatever. And that's when Sebastian, takes the time to realize, I need to get money. I can't do gigs forever. So he goes to Keith and he's like, okay, we'll have a session and we'll see from there. And then you find out that it's like electro hip hop jazz that they're actually a part of. And Sebastian's like, oh, he did not like that. But Keith is telling him, look at the people who go to the lighthouse. They're all in their 60s or older. What are you going to do when all those people die and there's no one else who likes traditional jazz anymore? You need to broaden your, things. I did not like Keith. I did not like Keith at all. He gets so caught up with the new band, and she gets so caught up with her one woman act that they then have no time for each other. She at some point calls him and she's like, I don't know where you are right now, what state you're in, but just call me whenever. And then she gets to the apartment and he's there and he's cooking dinner and he's like, yeah, for your one woman act, because she finally got the theater or whatever rented out to do it. They're talking, and the more that they talk, the more that she's like, I just didn't realize that this is going to be like a long term thing. I was just kind of assuming it was going to be until you got the money for your jazz club. And he's like, no, 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 I'm not going to do the jazz club anymore. And she's like, what? But he's like, I thought that this was what you wanted for me, to have like a stability place. She's like, I didn't say that I wanted you to go and like do all these things. And he's like, this is just what men like me have to do, you get in there and you do what people like. And she's like, since when have you ever cared about what people liked about you? And he goes, since when have I cared? You're an actress. She's like, you know what? I'm leaving. And he burns something in the oven, so he has to, kind of stay and make sure it doesn't burn down the place. But she leaves. So then he has to go do a photography gig. And they're like, okay, do this, do that, dress like this, do that. And they tell him, play something on the piano, like actually play something on the piano. And he plays that stupid freaking riff. And that's just like what happened with the dinner that she was at before the planetarium. He's like, oh my god, I need to go back to her. He leaves, and she finishes up with her one woman act that night. It's turned on, and there's her three friends and like maybe a few critics. And she's like, great. But she thinks that it did good. So she, goes to the back to, get out of her costume or whatever. She hears people talking shit about her. What was that whole scene about? And like, she's just so weird. And what was that about? Then Sebastian comes as she, leaves. He's like, oh my god, like, I'm so sorry. I know that I missed it. I'm so sorry. And she's like, we're over. It's done. He's like, what? No, like, come on. Like, I want to do better. I want to, fix this. And she's like, it's over. I can't pay back the theater. Nobody liked it. It's over. And he's like, okay, we'll fix it. And she goes, I'm going home. And he goes, okay, I'll see you at the apartment then. She goes, no, I'm going back home to Nevada where her family is. He just kind of sits there as she gets in her car and leaves. And then it goes through her going back home and being with her parents and him doing random gigs because, he doesn't really want to do the band work anymore. And then he gets a call and they're like, hi, is this Mia Dolan? And he's like, no, you got the wrong number. And they're like, oh, we thought that, she was at this number, that we could contact her through here. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. And she goes, oh, well, she's got a call back. And he goes, call back? And they're like, yeah. And then he drives all the way to Nevada, where in the middle of the night, he goes out and talks to her. And she's like, what the hell are you doing here? How did you find me? And he goes, it's the little library across the house. not that hard to find. She's like, ugh, okay, whatever. What do you want? And he's like, you have a callback. They liked your one woman act, and they want you to go do an audition tomorrow at 8 a.m. maybe. And she's like, I'm not going. It's just I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, you're going. If you're not here at 8 in the morning, you know, but I'm coming to pick you up at 8 to go do that. So then he leaves, and then he comes back in the morning, and she's not there at 8, and he goes to leave, but she's like, hey, wait, I was just grabbing coffee. And they drive to the audition or whatever in LA. She sings some song for the audition about how her aunt fell into the river in the Seine because they're going to be in Paris for 7 months, 3 rehearsing, 4 recording. And she sings about how her aunt fell into the Seine River, um, and how fools only get to dream; they don't get their wishes or whatever. Afterwards, she's like talking to Sebastian. She's like, "What? Like, where are we right now?" And he's like, "Well, at a really shitty fucking view." And she's like, "No, I mean, like, where are we? Like, us. You know what I'm talking about?" And he goes, "I don't know. Okay, I don't know." She goes, well, how do we, go on from here? And he's like, well, considering that you're going to be in Paris for 7 months, you need to chase your dream fully. And he basically tells her, like, if you love me, let me go, or whatever that song goes. Then it goes on to show her back at the coffee shop in the Warner Bros. Lot, but but she's the actress now, going, can I have a cappuccino, please? And they go, oh my god, it's on the house. And she goes, no thanks. I would like to pay. And so she puts the money on the counter and a crap load into the tip jar. And then she walks out again. And then it shows her coming back home to her ugly freaking husband, which I'm pretty sure is Greg, by the way. You could have had Sebastian, and yet you still chose that. Um, they have a daughter now, and they go on a date, but then of course traffic strikes, so then they have to go to downtown, and then they see this music club, and she's like, "Oh, we should go in." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." And then they go into the club, and she realizes it's the logo she drew for Seb's jazz club. And they go in and they sit down, and this jazz, group at the stage, gets done. And Seb himself comes up onto the stage and he's like, yes, thank you to these people. Round of applause for them. My own little piece here in just a second. Um, and he looks at her and he goes, welcome to Seb's. And then he starts playing that stupid freaking riff. I've never been so over a song in my life. I was so ready to just turn off the freaking movie by the end of it. But as he's playing the song, it goes through her head about all the different things that they could have done to stay together, and happy. And they could have had his jazz club, and she could have been an actress still. And then it leads all the way back through them having to, go around traffic, and them deciding to go into the jazz club, and them sitting down, and she kisses Seb, and she's like, oh, I miss you. And he's like, oh, I miss you too. And then the song ends, and she turns to her husband or whatever, and he's like, do you want to stay for one more? And she's like, no, I think I'm ready to go back home. And he goes, okay. So then they get up and he leaves. She falls after him, but she stops in the doorway and she looks over, and Seb looks up from the piano. She smiles, and he smiles and nods, and she nods, and then they leave. And that's that. You want to know what the whole color thing was about, by the way? Now that we're done with it? Yeah. Um, Red is supposed to like represent passion in like their work, Blue is meant to be like creativity, but also the reality of chasing dreams. Um, Green, I think, was supposed to be success in their relationship. Yellow was supposed to be success and ease in like their own passions. So like a lot of like red and orange can be seen when she's looking into the Warner Brothers lot about them, with the movie plot or whatever that they were looking at. He wears yellow when he's, thinking about jazz and stuff. Then of course I already told you about purple and pink. But in the end, the movie ending with, the different red and blue tones, she's wearing a lot of red, a lot of, red tones on her. Um, and Seb wearing a lot of blue or having a lot of blue tones actually means like the differences between them about how they still got what they wanted in their careers. Her passion for acting and his creativity with jazz. Um, but because it's not seen intermingled anymore, because they're not together, they got what they wanted, just not together. This movie was a freaking roller coaster, let me tell you. Oh my god. You need to go watch it for yourself because oh my god, there was so much that I skipped over probably. Hello, editor me back again just to say while I was editing this, I came to a really big realization that I hadn't thought about before because I noticed that in the beginning Mia is very solely blue focused. She isn't very, she doesn't wear much of anything else. In fact, a lot of people around her are wearing all the different colors. Not many other people or at all are wearing blue themselves. And at first I thought that it was just, because maybe she felt like an outlier because, working where she did and whatnot, as well as the fact that you can see in the beginning when she first gets into the elevator after having coffee spilled all over her, everyone is dressed in a white shirt and black pants with long hair, and she's really the only person who stands out. So I was like, oh, maybe blue is supposed to represent, that feeling that she has about it. But I think I've come to the realization that it's because she's the only person who is having a realistic like idealism about her job and what she wants in her passions. Because if you look at her friends, they have a lot of like the primary colors, um, and there's very few times that they have like secondary colors, and that's because they all have their own like such not like childlike passion or anything, or not like an unrealistic passion, but it's a very kind of overzealous passion, like an overestimated passion. And while she, is trying to be more realistic and more, I don't need a person in my life, to make me feel good about myself. I just need, what I want in my job. And in order to do that, I need to be very work focused. Meanwhile, her friends are more passionate about finding people that love them and stuff like that. So that's just a little tidbit that I realized from the movie while I was editing. Anyways, if you would like to see another movie review commentary video, then you know what to do. Subscribe, and also I have a gaming channel that I'm probably going to be uploading on soon. Maybe. Don't take that as for certain though. Anyways, I will see you guys next time. Bye. It is lunchtime for me. Oh my goodness. Where's my thing? Bye. I said.
What's your name?
Mia?
Mia. Guess I'll see you in the movies.